Hi, I'm Nigel, an engineer with over 30 years' experience. Join me on my adventures as I build new, repair old, and restore beauty. This is Bleeding Rust. Hello and welcome back to the workshop, and as promised, we're finally going to make a start and build this solar arch that I've mentioned so many times in previous videos. So here we have the push pit from Ben's boat, for which we are making the solar arch. The first job that I've got to do is use this solar arch to mark on the floor where the stanchions are going to go, and use this as a template so that when I build the solar arch, I know that when I take it down, because I'm a good 250 miles away, if not more, from where the boat is moored, I know that when I take the solar arch down finished, it will fit straight on the boat perfectly. So these are the base plates. I've already made these. I made these off camera. Yeah, they're 316. I'll get a bit closer, you can see. 316 stainless steel. They're 8mm thick. Now, this push pit has a single M12 threaded rod at the bottom. You can probably see then the bottom of the original stanchions. They went through the deck, a big washer on the bottom, and bolted it down. However, we want the cables of this solar arch to go through the tubing of the solar arch and into the boat. So these existing holes are where the cables are going to come through. And essentially, instead of having these round plates that you can see, we're going to have these square plates with four countersunk bolts, and they will be the bolts instead. So what I need to do is bolt these plates to the floor in the exact right place for the original stanchions so that they line up on the boat. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark where these threaded bars touch the floor, drilled those holes with my, mark those holes with my drill, with my hammer drill, so that I can line these plates up exactly where they would be on the boat. And then I'm going to temporarily fix these to the ground just using normal roll plugs and screws, countersunk screws. With these bolted to the floor, I can then build the whole solar arch from it and know that it will fit the boat perfectly. So that's what we've got to do first. I've got plenty of room to walk around this side. I've got room to work on it here. It's not going to interfere with the milling machine. Maybe just a little bit more this way. I think that is the perfect spot for it and gives me plenty of room to build the solar arch in the workshop from those fixing points. Now we've got the plates fixed to the floor, and you can see them there. And if I try and get a view from there, that sort of gives you an idea of the shape of the back of the bolt. It's a bit squarer than that, as you'll have seen from that insert. What we're going to do now is put the first tubes on. Now the front of this solar arch, from this stanchion to that stanchion, is going vertically up. Now on the original push pit, you can see that they slope back, and then you've got these hooks here and here, and that's where cable attached to make the side rails, or the safety rails, if you like, for the rest of the bolt. That's going to have solid on for the next section up, which will be fitted later. But these stanchions, rather than being sloped like that, that's too aggressive for the solar arch. It'd end up sticking way too far over the back of the bolt. So those stanchions, these front ones, are going to be vertically up and form the first arch between this plate here and this plate here. And the overall height of the arch is 2 meters 50. So what I'm going to do first is cut them. And now I'm going to do all the bends in sections, because to be able to get these bends and bend that in one piece would be very difficult. Getting it to line up would be difficult. So it's going to be cut and welded in sections, and then polished so that it's invisible seams. So what we'll do first is we're going to bend our returns first. Then I can get a measurement of how much bend that takes up, if that makes sense. And then I can cut these straight pieces, add them on, and then it's the cross member, which is going to have a slight apex in it to allow rain to run off the solar panels. So first of all, what we want is we want two almost 90-degree bends. I'm going to do them, rather than 90 degrees, I'm going to do them 85 degrees each, and that will allow us to have a slight apex on the top, so that it's just enough to encourage rain to run off the panels and not pool on the top. So yeah, let's make them two bends first on our wonderful bender once I've made a bit of space. And then we can work out the height then of these first two uprights. As you can see, we're at 85 there. You pull it tight, let it go loose, and it's at 85. So that's our first bend. We'll do two more, and then we'll work out how long our straight piece needs to be. So we're back in the workshop, and it's day two. Now, unfortunately, when I came to download the footage from yesterday's work, a big chunk was missing. I've no idea why. I'm gutted. But as you can see, we're quite a bit. We've jumped quite a bit further ahead. And I've actually got the front section of the solar arch tacked together. It's only a few tack welds, just to hold it in case we need to change anything on the design. But that's where we are now. There's still loads to do, so there'll be loads for you to see. So the next thing to do is I've got to make this curved piece to go from this stanchion, curve around, and then return to the front arch. And I want to do it so it matches this curve that's on the original push pit. The reason being is that this has been made to follow the line of the back of the bolt. And so by matching this and doing that on that one, when it goes to go on the bolt, the lines will be nice and it'll match. Now, that angle there, it's certainly not 90 degrees, as you can see, and it's actually a bit more than 45. It's around about a 50-degree angle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut a piece of tube that'll be long enough to go in there with a little bit, leave a little bit extra on so that I can get the measurements for where I notch it later. And we're going to put this curve in using the pipe bender, and we'll get it to match this curve by trial and error. Once we've got that right, then I'm going to make another 3 of them, because altogether there'll be 4 like this, because as you can see on the push pit, we've got one at the top, one at the bottom, and this is going to match that, albeit in the chunkier 38mm tube. So we'll have one at the top there and one lower down here going across. And then the other side has the exact same thing, so top and bottom. Once they're in position and tacked up, and obviously these posts are not straight yet, they've not been tacked into the plates. But once everything's tacked up and nice and solid, then we can start putting the second arch on. Okay, let's get a piece of tube cut using my new bandsaw, and then we'll get it in the pipe bender. So I've marked where I want the bend to start, and when you put this in the bender, there's a little mark inside there. I'll try and get you a shot of that, where you put this mark, and then it'll bend around this former that way. So I want this to be straight, and then the bend to start from this mark, working its way back. So this needs to go in this way, like so. I'll line that mark up with the 0 notch on the bender. Then we need to put the keeper plate on, the clamp, and it goes that way around. The pin in. Make sure that's engaged all the way. There's the 0 mark, and you can see the notch. It's not coming through on. Oh yeah, you can just see my pen mark just in there. And I've lined them up, and that will give me the start point for my bend. I'm going to do it to 50 degrees, as I think roughly that's what it is. I'm going to bend to 50 degrees, then I can just take it out, try it up against the original push bit. If it needs a little bit more, I can give it a little bit more. And then once we've got that matched up, I'll make a note of where I was on the bender in order to get that correct bend, and then I can repeat that 3 more times to get the 4 sections that we'll need for this part of the build. Okay, you can see the marker is now, the indicator here is at 0 degrees, because obviously the tube is straight. So now I want to take it to 50 degrees. But of course, when you're bending this, once you relieve the pressure off the bender, it's going to spring back a certain amount. So when you reach 50 degrees on here, doesn't mean that you have 50 degrees on your bend. You'll have less because of the spring back. The thing is, with every different type of metal, some are softer than others, some are more springy than others, also different wall thicknesses, you're going to have more or less spring back. So it's a matter of trial and error. This same tube will be used for all 4 that I've got to make. So once I get the first one where I want it to be, as long as I make a note of where I'm taking it to on these markings, I'll be able to repeat that each time and get the same result. So let's take the first one to 50 degrees. Okay, as you can see, I've reached 50 degrees there. I know that it's going to need a little bit more than that. So I'm just going to take it a little bit past. Maybe to 52.5. We'll disengage the bender. It's released. Slide that out. Now I can try that bend up against the original. It's close, but it needs another few degrees. So I went to 52.5 to get this. So I'm going to take it up to maybe 55. We'll try 55 degrees. That's engaged. And the markup, which I have. Take it to where it's the start. You should be able to see that mark just there. Okay, re-engage the bender. Till it bites. Okay. So, 50 degrees at the minute. We took it actually to 52.5-ish, trying to account for that spring back. It needs to go a little bit further. And I need to make sure that I make a note of exactly how much I do. So we're going to take it to, that's at 55 now. I'm going to take it a little bit more, 56, 57, 58. I'll take it to 58. We'll disengage again. And we'll try that. It can easily go back in the bender and have a little bit more bend put on it. If you go too far, it's very difficult to take that bend back out again. So just going in small steps is the best way to do it. Loosen it off. Slide that out. Try it again. And you can see that it's following that exactly the same. Don't go off the bottom one, that's optical illusion. But the top one there, it's following it perfectly. So I know now that I need to take this bender to the mark at 58. And then if I take it to 58, all of them will be the same as this one. And I can now make all 4 of these. And then we can look at notching them. And the way that they're going to look on here is, and we'll go pretty much like that. So obviously I've left enough so that I can use my notcher to make the nice notches on there. And that's how they will look. So I need 4 of these. So let's make another 3. So there's my 4 pieces ready to be notched and fitted. But before I can do that, and even mark where the notching needs to go, these back posts are still loose. They're not tacked to their base plates. So I'm going to do that next. I'm going to tack them in position, use a spirit level to get them straight up that way and that way. Get them tacked, and then I'm in a position to start marking these, notching them, and we'll get them on. So the way I'm doing this is you can push, if I tack this side and then try and straighten it that way, I'll be pulling against that tack and it won't work. So what I'm going to do is, currently the post is leaning that way. I could try and straighten it and then get a tack, but I'm TIG welding, I'd have to get both hands and everything else. The easiest way to do it, I'm going to do this orientation first, this axis, and then I'll do that axis. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let it lean that way, because then I know it's got to go this way. I'm going to tack this side, then I'm going to come a piece of this on here, and then I'm going to pull against the tack, which you'll see. This will act like a ratchet in the floor till it's straight. Then I'll get the tack on this side. Then I'll repeat the process for that axis, and we end up with a perfectly straight post. Now I'm TIG welding using stainless steel filler wire. The TIG welder's set on 85 amps at the moment, mainly because this plate is quite thick, so I need to, and it'll try and soak up all the heat when I go to tack. When I come to weld these tubes, it won't be on as high amp as that. And it helps when you put the earth on. For those that you already weld, I bet if you had £1 for every time you've gone to weld and realised you haven't put the earth clamp on, you'd be a very rich. So now that wanted to pull it, so I'm going to let that sit there. So with that clamped on, if I move it this way, that'll stop it going back again. So I need my spirit level now to level that up, then I can get a tack on this side. Okay, that's good. So I'm going to tack on this side now. This time I'm going to clamp to that. So that way it's fixed now. Now I need to set it in this axis going this way. Exactly the same principle. So it needs to go that way. So I'm going to clamp my little box section on this way. Not too much. Perfect. So 2 more tacks, one this side, one this side, one this side. That'll hold it all straight. Repeat it on that post, and then we're ready for putting our rail sections in. Remember the clamp. Lovely. We should repeat the process on this post now. Okay, now that these are both secured and nice and straight, I can start looking at getting these rails on, and they go like this. But obviously, at the moment, it's a square edge onto a round tube. So we're going to have to notch the end of this to fit on onto there nice and neat. So the first thing to do will be to notch this end. Once I've got that notched, this will bring it forward a bit. Probably end up about there like that. Then I'll be able to mark where the inside of the notch is on that one, put it in the notcher, and then hopefully it'll all fit together nicely. So let's get this in the pipe notcher and notch this end first. Right, so we've got our first notch in the tube. So that will fit on there. And now what we need to do is work out where we want to notch this end. I have my square. I'm just going to put my square on here. I've put a mark on with an idea. It's a bit hard when you've not got an assistant. So I need to just take a little bit more than where I've marked off the reference point. And once we know this first one is perfect, obviously it'll fit there. It's because these are straight, it'll fit there, it'll fit here, and it should fit the other side as well. And I'll be able to mark the others off it. So there's my mark. And that's going to be the inside edge of where the cut is going to be on the tube notcher. So let's get this in the tube notcher, put the next notch on, and then we'll see how it fits. Bit of WD-40. There we go, we're through. Okay, so I've notched this side to the right length, and now fits nicely. So that is going to go there to form the top rail. This, incidentally, in case you were wondering, that's going to be blanked off and polished up there. So that fits nicely. It also, if you slide it down, fits nicely to the next position there. I've already tried it on the other side and it fits nicely, which gives me also confidence that these posts are in the right position, because obviously if it fits that side as well, everything's lining up nicely. So I'm going to use this one now to mark all the others, so they'll all be identical. So that's the first two of these rails on. The next two will go on that side, obviously, but I think you can start to see now it taking shape of how this solar arch will look. Right, so it's the end of day 2. I'm cold now, and I think I need to have a break. I need some food and a rest. So I'm going to leave it for today. The video is going to carry on though. I'll be back in the morning for you. It'll be a few seconds for me. It'll be overnight. So I'll see you when I get back in the workshop in the morning. Right, I'm back in the workshop, and day 3. I forgot how good it looks. It's great when you come back to the workshop having done some job. You leave it, you come back, and then you see how much you achieved the day before. I mean, I'm really happy. So I'll just put in this is for I've notched the first one, I've got to make the second one identical to it. So first of all, I need that bending. And I'm trying to remember what it was. It wasn't 10 degrees. I think it was 15. So we'll do it, try it, add a bit more if we need to. Go. Okay, so I've laid them on top of each other. You can see that the angle is bang on. It's hard to see that, isn't it? There you are, there's two of them. And I've laid them on and the angle's perfect match. So that now what I need to do is notch this one the same as that one's notched. You can see the notch there. There it is. So notch this one the same, cut it to length because it's over length at the moment. And then I'll get both of these in position and temporarily tacked, and probably just put a temporary cross stay in just to hold them up while we get the top bit on. Okay, let's get this one notched and cut. We need 20 mil of material to be able to notch. If we have too much material sticking through, it jams in the hole saw. So you have to cut that off. You want that first mark is where the edge, the inside edge of the hole saw will be. That's what I line up to. That second mark is how much material I need to leave on to get a perfect notch. So I'm going to cut that off with the angle grinder. That bit of excess, because that way it doesn't jam in the thing in the hole saw. The WD-40 to lube it. You can see the pipe's wobbling a bit. This I'm holding on to it now. This is the slowest my drill will go. I'm going to take it very easy. This 316 stainless doesn't take any prisoners. Nice and easy. So what I need to do is to mark that where I want it, and then I'm going to put a temporary piece across here to hold it in position while I get a tack, line it up, get a couple of tacks on there. We'll leave this piece in because I want it nice and solid for when the top's on. And then I'll do the same on the other side so that they match up perfectly. It's really odd because it's really important that aesthetically it looks great. I've had situations where you measure things and you get them exactly right, so to the millimetre, but then when you look, they look out and it looks wrong. And somebody else will say, oh, you've got that, that's bent or it's not parallel, but it is, and you get a tape measure and you go and it is, but it looks out. And so you've got to get a balance between it being accurate with a tape measure and a spirit level, but also look right, because optical illusions can make things look wrong. So it's difficult to get that balance, but that's why building it in pieces, stepping back, stopping, stepping back, having a look, making sure it looks right is so important in a build like this. You could build it on a CAD drawing and have a machine do all of these bends and notches for you, put it together, and it would be accurate, but would it look right? Right, I've just had a video call with Ben, whose boat this is going on. And as you can see, I've just clamped it on temporarily. Now, when we was marking this up for putting this notch in, I had it so that this piece was actually coming out a bit, so that it was a bit wider at the back. However, once I'd clamped it on like this, aesthetically, it didn't look right. It just, because when you stood here, it was leaning out, and it looked like it had a bad lean on it. And looking at it from the back, it didn't look right, you know. And again, it's that balance of getting the aesthetics right, along with you know, the actual the way it should be built. So we've now changed our mind, and that this is going to run parallel and in line with this handrailing, because once it was on and clamped, it was obvious that that's what we needed to do. And that way, I can just click it when I'm ready. Let's take that off. Is it going to hold? No. No. So, another clamp. Just going to hold it gently, just so it doesn't slide. So I'll slide that back. Might as well move it to where I want it to be, which is going to be about there. Then I can undo that. Let it go forward. Straight up there. I think maybe this way a little bit more. I can. Yeah, that looks better. And once I'm happy with this one, just by sliding it, moving it, clamping it, whatever that measurement ends up being is what I'll do on the other side, and the other one will match perfectly. Have I got at the top now? Yeah, I've got 500 now. 600 would have been ideal, but 500. Because don't forget, this is up, it's actually up here because of this bend going yet. So we end up with actually 500, and it's going to be about 530. And that is enough. I just want enough. So if you imagine this is the solar panels at the top, if I've got it fixed there and there, it's not as stable as if I've got it fixed there and there. So that's why I want it as wide as possible at the top, so I've got a more solid base for the solar panels to then sit on. I put a few extra tacks on that on here because they only had one tack on. It was just temporary, so I want it to be able to hold this. This is already feeling solid now. So so now what I want to do, I'm going to get one of the cross members in. They want to run horizontal so that they're horizontal to this. So I've made another notched piece, identical for this side. What I need to do now is get the other one of these, get my piece, clamp it on, line it up, get it tacked at the bottom, get the other stay on, and then we're ready to put the last piece on. It's really starting to come together now. So she's really starting to take shape now. I've got so that's the upright. For me, that's the hardest bit, because getting that angle right, getting them to sit right, was the bit that worried me more than anything. Got a 90-degree bend here. So what's next is this top bit. So I've got to make 2 more 85 degree bends. So I've got to cut this to the right length for that, but I'm going to make the top piece first, because it'll be slightly smaller than the front one. So that's right, ready to slot on, and then I will cut these to length to weld on, and I'll tack the whole lot together. Again, this is going to be quite complex, because it's got to be level at the top with a spirit level, so that they're sitting like that. But at the same time, it's leaning back. So getting that right, it's going to take a bit of jiggery-pokery, which is why I want to make this top section as one piece, sit it on, get it where it is with spirit level, and then mark where these want cutting to join it on, and then we'll get it tacked together. But it's still going to be difficult, but it is the final big piece of the puzzle. I'm excited. So my idea is trying to line all of this up and get the apex piece on, and everything else tacked in position on the floor would be very difficult, because it wouldn't line up when I went up. So I want to make sure that when I cut these pieces, they'll line up with here, the right width, the right curve, everything else. So by doing this with the cable ties, actually, it wants to be there because it moves that way, doesn't it? Yeah. So by doing it this way, once I've got this piece in, where these finish, I can mark across, cut it off, with all this tacked together, and then I know it'll sit straight back on top, and it'll be fine. So that's the plan, and I'm only going to tack it together. So if it doesn't work out, I can always go to plan B. But I don't have a plan B at the moment, so I'm hoping this does work. So, being a 5'8" short ass, I do need my step ladders to get up there and get that measurement. Okay, so between there and there is 790. Now, will that remain 790? Because if I'm going in, no, because it's going to get wider because of that angle. So what I've got to be careful of is these are like that. So it can go that way. And like that. That's still running parallel. That's still running parallel. $800, that's more like it. So 800 long, and in the middle it wants the bend, the slight bend, 10-degree bend for the apex, and then we'll see how that fits. So join me in a minute when I've cut that and put the bend in. Right, so it might look a bit mad, but what I've done is I've used angle irons, and just lightweight angle iron. That's how you line up 2 tubes together. That one wants the clamp just there to line it up perfectly. It just wants pulling up. And by using 2 angle irons, the tubes sit into the profile of the angle iron and they line up. It's just a way of lining tubes up straight. This bend here is just a little bit too sharp, but by the time it's cut here to match, that will disappear. Because it's just curving about round here. I've looked at it, I'm happy with it, got the orientation right. It looks like a lot of cable ties at the minute, but it means I can look at it, I can put the spirit level on, I can check that it's running straight, And I've done all of that. So what I'm going to do now is put a couple of tacks to join the bends to the apex piece here. So that's joined, and I can take these angle irons off and get a more cleaner view. And then I'll double check again. This will essentially be one piece then. And then what I'll do then is just double check with my spirit level and by eye and make sure that everything's where it should be. Then I can mark where to cut these tubes so that they match up with this. Better view with my spirit level, make sure that everything's running straight. Looking good. Oh, it wants to come up. Hard with all these on. It will go. So up a bit on that side. Up a bit on that side. We're still running straight. Oh, that's better. Yeah. This side. Right, that's correct there. Like in the middle. Bang on in the middle. And it does want to go just down a little bit on this side. Yeah, the good's still in the middle. There. Still good there. Oh, that looks fabulous. Right, I am happy with that. So what I need to do now is mark where the tops of these tubes finish around there, and that's where these will be cut. Mark around that one, and that's where that one will be cut. I need to be as accurate as I possibly can. Now I'm going to have to just get my flat pad and just polish this one a little bit first, because it's got a horrible little lump on it where the saw's obviously in a funny moment. So I'm just going to polish that so it's square, and I'll get the marks, and then we'll take this off, cut it, and then we should be able to just sit it straight back on these and tack it into position. Yeah. Just going to put a little F for front on there. Because when I take this off now to just clamp it in the vise while I cut these with the grinder, I don't want to pick it up, have it the other way around, and it not look right, and then we'll be scratching my head so that light doesn't fit. Right, I've done the cutting, I've prepped the edges, put the chamfer on both these edges and on the piece that's going on. I've clamped some angle iron on each one to line the tubes up. So now, to fit this back on, the front, isn't there? I'm glad I put that on now. Oh, there it is. Great. There we go. Ha! That's handy, because what that's done is it's pulled the angle irons up to them and clamped onto it. I'll have to remember that technique. Just had another click. Ah, I love it. Make sure that's all flush, and it is. Wow. Still looking good before I get a weld on. Yes. It's a huge achievement for me to have the main part of the arch now up and in shape and being able to see what it looks like. So I'm really happy. I'm going to take a couple of pictures of it now, send them to Ben to show him the progress. And in the next video, because we'll end this video here, I think it's a natural point. The next video, we'll get the rest of these cross members in, the roof ones in. We'll start welding it up solid and polishing off the welds. And then we'll look at what else has to go on here, the brackets for the lights. I'll try and get the rest of that into one video. It's too much to do the whole build in one video because there's too many things to see. So I think this is a natural point to end this video. So join me on the next one where we'll do the rest of the work on the solar arch. And as always, thank you for watching and take care of yourselves.